There is a piece of paper the city of New York sells for $75. On the street, food truck owners pay up to $25,000 for that exact same piece of paper. In the next 10 minutes, you'll see the real math behind a New York City food truck. Permits, rent, food cost, and the profit margin nobody puts in their thumbnail. New York City has roughly 20,000 food vendors competing for the same few blocks of sidewalk. So what does it actually take, on paper, to sell a single taco here? You need two separate government credentials. The first is the mobile food vending license. It belongs to you, the person, and requires a mandatory food protection course. The second is the mobile food vending unit permit. It belongs to the truck. On paper, it costs as little as $75 for 2 years. Here's the catch. These permits are capped by law, and the waiting list has stretched for years, sometimes decades. That created New York's infamous black market. Existing permit holders quietly lease their permits to newcomers for $15,000 to $25,000 a year, technically against the rules, but it's operated in plain sight for decades. In 2026, the city started fixing this. A promised rollout of 11,000 additional permits is meant to loosen the bottleneck over several years. Then there's the truck itself. New, fully built, $100,000 to $200,000. Used, $40,000 to $90,000, though it usually needs repairs first. Add it all up, and a realistic New York City startup budget lands between $65,000 and $130,000 before a single dollar of revenue. That explains why roughly 60% of new food trucks in America don't survive their first year. The barrier is not the food, it's the paperwork and the capital. And permits are only the beginning. Every truck must legally return daily to something most customers never think about: a commissary kitchen. Commissary rent in New York runs $800 to $2,500 a month. And most commissaries sit in Queens, Brooklyn, or the Bronx, not Manhattan. That means a truck serving lunch in Midtown often starts the day with a 40 to 60-minute drive, just to reach the block where it actually makes money. Then comes the second location question: where can you actually sell? New York bans vending near crosswalks, subway entrances, and huge stretches of Midtown. A prime legal corner near a busy office tower can be worth an extra $800 a day, compared to a quiet block just steps away. Weather is the silent partner in every truck's revenue. A single rainy day can cut sales by 40 to 60%, no matter how good the food is. So before a single ingredient is discussed, here's the fixed monthly overhead: commissary, parking, insurance, loan payment. In New York, that typically runs higher than the national baseline. Now, the part everyone actually wants to know. What does it cost in raw ingredients to make the $10 taco customers are lining up for? Raw ingredient cost, COGS, typically runs 25 to 35% of the price. Packaging adds another 30 to 70 cents per item. The most successful New York trucks sell 4 to 6 items executed extremely well, not 20 items executed adequately. Fewer items means less waste, faster service. In New York, customers expect to pay $10 to $15 for lunch, noticeably more than the $7 to $10 typical elsewhere in the country. Let's put real numbers on it. A signature chicken sandwich, priced at $11. Ingredients around $3. Packaging 50 cents. Gross profit on that sandwich, about $7.50. A 68% gross margin. Exactly the number that makes food trucks look like guaranteed gold mines. But gross profit hasn't paid the commissary yet, hasn't paid the cook, hasn't paid the truck loan. That's not what the owner actually keeps. With monthly fixed costs near $6,000 to $8,000 in New York, a truck needs to sell roughly 40 sandwiches a day, every working day, just to break even. 40 sandwiches on a strong lunch rush is achievable, but that number has to survive rain, a slow Monday, January, and every other truck selling something almost identical. This is why struggling trucks barely clear $150,000 a year, while top performers exceed $750,000. The food is often nearly identical. The difference is volume. Speed matters more than almost anything else. A truck serving a customer in 90 seconds captures far more of a lunch rush than one that takes 4 minutes. Add even one employee and payroll adds $2,000 to $4,000 a month. So, after all of that, what does a New York City food truck actually take home every year? Quick disclaimer, every number from here is an industry estimate. No two trucks earn exactly the same. On an average day, a New York truck brings in $800 to $2,000 in gross sales. Multiply that across a month, and you land on $20,000 to $42,000 in monthly gross revenue for a typical healthy truck. Annualize it, roughly $250,000 to $500,000 a year in gross revenue. And New York sits near the top of the national rankings. Top performers exceed $750,000. Some push past $1 million. Struggling trucks in weaker locations can barely clear $150,000. Remember, every one of these numbers is gross revenue, the total money through the window before a single expense has been paid. Start with food cost, 25 to 35% of revenue. On $400,000 in sales, that's $100,000 to $140,000 gone before anything else. Then labor, if there's even one employee, $24,000 to $48,000 a year. Then commissary and parking, another $12,000 to $18,000. Then insurance, permit renewals, packaging and supplies, fuel and vehicle maintenance. Several more $1,000s a year. Easy to underestimate in a first-year budget. Add it all together, and total operating costs on a $400,000 revenue truck typically land between $350,000 and $380,000 a year, which leaves a net profit, actual money left over, of roughly $20,000 to $60,000 a year, depending on how tightly the operation is run. In percentage terms, a net profit margin of roughly 6 to 12%, occasionally 15 to 20% for the best run trucks. Compare that to a typical New York restaurant, where net margins often sit even lower, around 3 to 5%, crushed by rent that can hit tens of thousands a month. That's the food truck's real advantage. No $10,000 a month lease. But remember, net profit is business profit, not the owner's personal paycheck. If the owner works the window every day, their own labor is baked into that number, often unpaid, at least on paper. Once you count the owner's working hours as salary, realistic take-home income in New York lands between $60,000 and $100,000 a year. Top performers can push personal income past $100,000, but that income is not passive. Most owner-operators work 60 or more hours a week, and it's worth remembering, roughly 60% of new food trucks nationally don't survive their first year of operation. The ones that do survive share the same traits: a tight menu, a great location, obsessive cost tracking, treating this like a real business, not a hobby. So here's the honest verdict. A New York City food truck is neither a guaranteed goldmine nor a guaranteed disaster. It's a genuinely hard, small business, with unusually high entry barriers wrapped around unusually thin but real profit margins. The people who succeed treat every dollar, food cost, labor, parking, like it actually matters. Because it does. If this business is on your radar, budget realistically. $65,000 to $130,000 before your first sale. Understand the permit system before you commit. Scout your location at every hour you plan to operate. Keep the menu tight enough to execute fast under pressure. Track every expense from day one and build a cash cushion for the slow months, because a business that only survives on its best days isn't stable. New York will always be one of the hardest places in America to run a food truck. The permits are scarcer, the rent higher, the competition fiercer, but it's also one of the only places where the right truck on the right corner can genuinely out-earn a small restaurant within 2 years. So the next time you walk past a food truck on a New York street corner, you'll know what's actually behind that window. Not just a $10 taco, a 5-figure truck payment, a permit that might have cost $75 or $25,000. And a real person betting today covers it all. This video is for information purposes, not financial advice. Permit rules and margins change, and every truck's numbers differ. If you found this useful, subscribe for more real numbers behind real businesses. That's the real math behind New York City's food trucks. See you in the next one.